Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain The Witch, Part 1. This movie tells the story of a high school student with amnesia who has superhuman abilities, tries to uncover what has happened to her. All were leading her into deeper troubles, ultimately revealing a darkness she could not have imagined. Will she be able to find out who she was, and use her abilities for good? Let's find out in The Witch, Part 1. The Witch Part 1 begins by showing a group of scientists working for a mysterious institution, where they are conducting an experiment that is predicted to be able to make major changes for the progress of mankind in the future. However, these experiments seem too dangerous to continue because they risk the lives of many people, especially the children who have been the subject of their research so far. Therefore, the two members that run the lab for experiment, namely a woman named Dr. Beck and a man nicknamed Mr. Choi, then asked to stop the experiment and close the facility, and eliminate traces of the existence of the experimental subjects. The children who were the experiment subjects were then slaughtered one by one. However, two of them managed to escape from the facility. Mr. Choi then ordered his men to arrest the two children before their whereabouts were known to others. Mr. Choi and his men managed to catch the boy, nicknamed Nobleman, while a little girl whose name was unknown managed to escape into the forest. Despite being badly injured, the little girl continued to run through the forest, avoiding the people chasing her, until finally the little girl arrived at a farm, where the little girl finally collapsed unconscious. Not long after, the farm owner, Mr. Gu, found the little girl lying helpless. Without thinking, Mr. Gu then took the little girl into the house and called the doctor. The next morning, the doctor who came to check on and treat the little girl told Mr. Gu and his wife that the little girl has amnesia. Out of pity, Mr. Gu and his wife decided to take care of the little girl and adopted her with the name Ja Yoon. Long story short, 10 years have passed, and now Ja Yoon has grown up as a teenage girl who loves her family and always helps her father work taking care of the family farm. In her daily life, Ja Yoon also takes care of and always comforts her mother who is starting to suffer from dementia. Not only that, Ja Yoon also suffers periodic bouts of migraines, but she never tells her family about her sickness. Ja Yoon then takes the initiative to get herself checked, and finds out that she suffers from Alzheimer's disease, a disease that attacks the brain that can cause memory loss and thinking skills, and can be fatal if not treated quickly. The next day, Ja Yoon goes to school with her friend, Young Hee, who tells her about a prestigious talent search event in Seoul that has large prize money. Because she wants to help her family who are facing economic problems, and it requires a lot of money for her mother's treatment, Ja Yoon also intends to take part in the talent search event. Of the many audition participants, Ja Yoon managed to attract the judge's attention and qualify for the next round after the girl demonstrated her telekinesis ability that can make a mic float. Ja Yoon's ability then went viral, and Ja Yoon became a conversation everywhere. This makes Dr. Beck and Mr. Choi realize that Ja Yoon is the girl that escaped, and send men to recapture her. After getting the blessing of their parents to go to Seoul for the next audition, Ja Yoon and Young Hee then rushed to Seoul by train, where they met a handsome young man who acted friendly to the two of them. Young Hee thought that the young man knew Ja Yoon from social media because she had gone viral, but he denies it and says that he knew Ja Yoon long before that. When the boy suddenly was about to hit Ja Yoon, she burst into tears, which made Young Hee scream and threw the young man out of there. He finally left. While walking down a train carriage, the young man accidentally bumps into a man and gets into an argument with him. With a cold, expressionless face, the young man then killed the man and got him out of the carriage just like that. Judging from his strength, it is certain that the young man is Nobleman, the boy who had tried to escape from a secret facility with Ja Yoon several years ago. Not long after, Ja Yoon and Young Hee finally arrived in Seoul and headed straight for the audition venue, where Ja Yoon again passed the audition and moved on to the next stage. When she was about to go home from the audition venue, Ja Yoon again felt a terrible pain in her head. Ja Yoon then remembers what the doctor said, that Ja Yoon's life would not last long because her illness is very serious. Young Hee, who seems worried about her best friend, tries to relieve Ja Yoon's pain by giving her headache medicine. But Ja Yoon says she's fine. While crossing the street, Ja Yoon and Young Hee are stopped by a car, where a group of Dr. Beck's men get off and try to kidnap Ja Yoon. Young Hee, who realized this, immediately rushed to take Ja Yoon away by taking a taxi. After finally making it back to their city, Ja Yoon and Young Hee are reunited with Nobleman, who threatens to kill Ja Yoon's parents. Hearing this, Ja Yoon then ran home and asked Young Hee to contact her father, who is a police chief, to immediately come check on Ja Yoon's parents at home. Moments later, Nobleman and his henchmen had arrived at Ja Yoon's residence. However, at about the same time, Yoon-hee's father arrived there and went straight to Nobleman's car, telling them to get out of there. Nobleman was forced to postpone his plan to kill Ja-yoon's parents because he didn't want to get involved with the police. Not long after, Ja-yoon, who was still in panic, finally arrived home and panicked even more when she saw a police car in the yard. But when Ja-yoon walks into the house, she is so relieved that her parents are okay, and so is Yoon-hee's father. After making sure things were safe, Yoon-hee's father rushed out of Ja-yoon's house with his daughter. Then Yoon-hee's father warned Ja-yoon to be careful because he met a group of suspicious people who were stalking Ja-yoon's house. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Nobleman and his henchmen are assigned to kill a man who used to be a scientist in an experiment conducted by Dr. Beck. Since the man refused to cooperate, Nobleman was ordered to finish him off. It is revealed that Nobleman also has telekinesis abilities just like Ja-yoon, where he uses this ability to grab a man's gun, then points it at the man and shoots him without even touching the gun. On the other hand, Dr. Beck has a meeting with Mr. Choi and asks him not to meddle in matters involving Ja-yoon anymore, now that headquarters has taken over the mission. However, Mr. Choi thinks that Dr. Beck has hidden reasons regarding Ja-yoon. The next day, Mr. Choi meets a man who was once a scientist who worked for their secret institution. It turned out that Mr. Choi has a rare disease that gnaws at his hands, and the man then suggests to Mr. Choi to arrest Ja-yoon because the contents of the girl's head can be used as research material to create a drug that can cure Mr. Choi. For that reason, Mr. Choi can't comply with Dr. Beck's request forbidding him to get involved in Ja-yoon's related business anymore. That night, Yoon-hee decides to stay at Ja-yoon's house because she is still worried about her best friend's condition. After having dinner with her parents and Yoon-hee, Ja-yoon then went back to her room and tried to sleep. In the middle of the night, again Ja-yoon feels unbearable pain in her head after having a bad dream. At the same time, a group of people infiltrate Ja-yoon's house, trying to kidnap her. They manage to take Yoon-hee and her parents hostage, and urge Ja-yoon to confess that she was the girl who tried to escape earlier. Because Ja-yoon didn't confess, they hurt Yoon-hee, so Ja-yoon became furious. Entering a trance, Ja-yoon dispatches the men with superhuman strength and speed. She is left shaken, not understanding her either superhuman or psionic abilities. Not long after, Nobleman arrives and demands that she accompany him or he will kill Ja-yoon's parents. Ja-yoon was forced to go with Nobleman to save her parents. But before leaving, Ja-yoon asks Yoon-hee to look after her parents. Elsewhere, Mr. Choi is preparing all his men to attack Dr. Beck's base and capture Ja-yoon. Ja-yoon is taken to the laboratory, where she is restrained. Dr. Beck then orders her men to inject a serum into Ja-yoon's body, and instantly, Ja-yoon gets all her memories back, including when she was still the subject of experiments by Dr. Beck and other scientists. Dr. Beck explains that she created Ja-yoon and other kids, genetically modifying them to have superpowers. Ja-yoon and Nobleman, as well as the other children who were research subjects at the same time as them, made progress that was so rapid, even uncontrollable, that it endangered many people, so Dr. Beck and her team were ordered to stop the experiment, and removes all traces of the research, including the subjects. Meanwhile in the lab, Ja-yoon's body begins to react to the serum that was injected earlier. Ja-yoon looked in so much pain that she was vomiting blood. Dr. Beck explains that Ja-yoon's headaches are a symptom of a disease that will kill her without proper treatment. Dr. Beck has Ja-yoon injected with a blue serum that will stop the disease for a month, leaving Ja-yoon dependent on new doses. After the injection, Ja-yoon's demeanor changes, and she reveals that she never lost her memory and has always known what she was. After visiting a doctor by herself, and being told that without a bone marrow transplant by a blood relative, Ja-yoon only has a few months left to live. Ja-yoon decided to track down Dr. Beck for the cure. Not knowing how to find Dr. Beck, Ja-yoon purposefully revealed her abilities during the audition to draw the attention of her creators. It doesn't take long for Ja-yoon to kill all of Dr. Beck's men who are in the lab and escape from there, and then threatens the woman to hand over all the blue serum they have to her. On the other hand, Nobleman and his henchmen rush towards the lab to stop Ja-yoon, but they are blocked by Mr. Choi and his men, who immediately open fire on them. Because Nobleman and his minions have almost the same abilities as Ja-yoon, they can easily kill Mr. Choi's men. However, Mr. Choi learns the weaknesses of some of Nobleman's henchmen and manages to kill them. When his henchmen fought against Mr. Choi, Nobleman rushes to the lab and ends up confronting Ja-yoon before she kills Dr. Beck. Ja-yoon and Nobleman then engage in a fierce duel, in which both of them have superhuman abilities. However, Ja-yoon turned out to be able to outperform Nobleman and knock him down. When she is about to kill Nobleman, Mr. Choi arrives and shoots at Ja-yoon and Nobleman. Seeing the arrival of Mr. Choi, Dr. Beck looks happy because she thinks Mr. Choi sided with her. but Mr. Choi instead shot her. With her speed that exceeds ordinary humans, Ja-yoon managed to counter Mr. Choi, killing him. Nobleman finally gets back up and challenges Ja-yoon to a duel with him again, to which Nobleman says that he'll reveal the location of the blue serum supply. However, suddenly one of Nobleman's henchmen attacked Ja-yoon from behind. Ja-yoon was able to anticipate the attack and dodge it, then kills the woman. Unexpectedly, the attack turned out to be a diversion so Nobleman could stab Ja-yoon. Even so, Ja-yoon is still superior to Nobleman, and she finally manages to kill Nobleman after he refuses to reveal the location of the blue serum supply. After slaughtering everyone, Ja-yoon then took some samples of the blue serum in the lab, then burned the entire facility and all the corpses inside to remove any traces. Ja-yoon then visits her parents at the hospital, because her mother's health condition is deteriorating and has to be hospitalized. Ja-yoon then provided her father with some of the serum to give it to her mother to help slow the spread of her dementia. Her father alludes to always having known what Ja-yoon could do. Ja-yoon decides to leave her parents, but promises to come back again. 3 months later, Ja-yoon appears at Dr. Baek's twin sister's residence, who turns out to be the creator of the blue serum. Ja-yoon then gave some samples of blue serum to the woman, and asked her to make a serum with a stronger and permanent effect. A mysterious young woman, whose face is covered in scars, approaches Ja-yoon. But Ja-yoon threatens to kill her if she touches her. And the film ends. Who is this mysterious woman, and why does Ja-yoon not want to be touched by her? Does that woman have superhuman abilities like Ja-yoon? Who were the founders of the secret institution who had ordered such dangerous experiments on children? It looks like all of that will be answered in the sequel, namely The Witch Part 2, which is said to be released in the near future. However, one thing for sure that we can learn from this film is never to conduct any experiments on living things, especially humans, because it will only lead to disaster and catastrophe that will not only endanger yourself, but also all mankind on Earth.